I just wanted to share my first impressions on the Anevay Traveller Stove which I purchased. There are a couple of stoves out there particularly designed for a market of people that like to go camping and like to set up hot tents with the like a stove inside a tent. So the Traveller Stove I've got is designed for that purpose, and possibly small spaces like caravans and tiny homes and things like that. So I just wanted to share my first impressions. I've done a burning procedure and followed up by a small burn outside to cure the paint further, and I've also done a test run inside a house as well. So you'll see more detail of that later in the video. But those who are just interested in the information about the stove, I'll give you this first, and if you're interested in seeing how I proceeded with the instructions that they give you here on how to burn in the stove comes with an instruction leaflet, so all that information is provided. Overall, I think this stove is fantastic. I'm really impressed with it in the build quality, the material that has been used to build this stove. I think this is a really good product, and I'll say right now I have no connection with Anevay at all. I've just basically come across this stove over the internet and looked into it, and I really liked the look of the stove. I found there wasn't very much in terms of YouTube videos out there, so I thought I'd make this one just so there's some more information for people that are looking for something like this, that can give you a bit more of an idea of what the stove is like, what it looks like when it's actually in operation as well, because that's something I was looking for. I didn't really find a lot, so I've made up my own video since I bought this stove, and wish to share that with you. A couple of points I'll make, things that I like, and maybe I shouldn't say dislike about the stove, but just things that I've found, how would I say, like I found interesting about the stove. Maybe I'll put it that way. Okay, what I liked about the stove, as mentioned, the build quality is fantastic. You cannot fault it. It is solid. This stove is going to last a very long time. Look after the stove. It will serve you for many years. I'm quite convinced of that. I like the idea of the top of the stove as well. You can lift up, it's like a lid on the top, so you can lift that up. That serves for two purposes. You can feed larger logs in through the top without opening the door, because the door is relatively small, because it is a small stove. So bearing that in mind, you can put larger logs in through the top, which is great. Also, the other idea of that is that you can put a pan on the top and have the open flame onto the bottom of the pot, so that'll help cooking food quicker and getting water boiling and things like that. So I think that's a really good idea. The stove has an air wash system over the glass, which is great. It's typical of a lot of modern slow burn stoves, wood heaters, things like that. I have a wood heater in the back of the house here, and that's the principle, and it helps to keep the glass cleaner as you use the stove. I think that's fantastic. Now, the thing that I found interesting about the stove is how to draw air into the bottom of the stove. That can be an issue. So what what's been done with that is there's two positions in the door latch, so you can have the door slightly ajar, or you can, well, so yeah, you have it slightly ajar in normal operation, or if you want extremely slow burn, you can fully close and lock the door. Personally, I prefer to have the door closed and locked, because that's the whole idea of having the door seal. So this stove has actually got a door seal as well, which is fantastic. So it's really slow burning. Once the fire is established, you can get a reasonable burn time out of this stove. It would have been great, I think, to have some type of air control in the bottom of the stove to feed air in, so you can always have that door shut once the fire is established. That is the only thing I could say that I would like to see different about the stove. However, saying that, by using the two door latch positions and also the locked position, so you've really got three positions, you can control the fire very well and adjust the air control on the top. You can get a reasonably good fire going, and it burns for a long time. So putting all that aside, it's more the way that the stove operates. You get used to that. Anyhow, enough of this. I'll now put on the video, the burning process, followed by an actual small fire burn outside. That was done for about 2 hours, I think, roughly. Just using some pieces of wood. So I made a real fire, and then once all the paint smell had mostly gone away, there was no more smoke or anything coming off the paint, I brought it inside. I've got a fireplace in the front room, so I simply temporarily set the stove up in there with some flue pipe going up into the chimney, and did a trial burn inside, and that was quite good results. With any of these things, if you're going to use a stove like this inside, whether it be in a tent, caravan, or even in a home, though it's not really designed for using in a home, but a small portable home or something, people might be interested in putting something like this in. Always use a carbon monoxide detector. I'm sure it's been stressed enough by other people that are using wood stoves. Just be careful and make sure that you're safe when doing anything like this. Anyhow, we'll go ahead now and show you some of the more practical side of it now, by setting the stove up and lighting fire. Hello, I've just purchased my Traveller stove. I've got it out of the box. I'm just setting it up to do the burn-in procedure. Apparently there are like 3 fire starters which you sit in the firebox and burn to help cure the paint prior to initial actual proper burn. So I'll show you the stove and all the accessories we got with it. And this is the box it came in. nicely packed. Lots of protection. And there's also this tent jack for the flue. You can install it into a tent. So yeah, that's basically the package and the stove. There it is over there. Also included in this in the package was this brochure about Traveller Stove instructions, and it makes it pretty clear you must cure the paint first for protecting the stove, the paint, and making sure that the paint will last for a long time. So they've provided, as I said, there's like 3 firelighters, or like a firelighter type of material there. It explains here that you need to initially do that first before making a fire. So I'm going to go out there now and actually do that. This was inside the stove and it smells like kerosene. So it says to place the first package inside the stove in the centre. Leave the door slightly open and allow it to burn. Once that's happened, you allow the stove to cool down and then repeat the process again with the second block and following the third block. So we'll set it up now and do the first burn with block 1. So here it is. It's pretty much just 2 firelighters. So we'll place that in the stove now and we'll light it up. Just lit it. The door's just slightly ajar and vent fully open at the top here. And we just let that burn. There will be some smoke, of course. It's actually quite black, but it's just the firelighter. It's about 6 minutes in now. I can smell the paint a little bit now. Just not bad smell, but I can smell it's hot. So it's starting the curing process. So we'll come back in a little while once this goes out. Okay, so now the stove is out. It was about 10 minutes the burn time. As you can see, there's some charred remains in there. Maybe you can see that. Makes a lot of soot. But anyway, we'll let it cool down and we'll repeat the process with block 2. So it's the same thing. We'll put that inside and do a second burn once the stove is cooled down. Okay, the stove's now completely cold, so we'll go ahead and take the second package, which is the same thing. It's like 2 firelighters inside. We'll place that in the centre of the firebox and light it up for its second burn. There's 2 firelighters. Once again, door's not completely closed, it's just on the second latch. Vents wide open. This will probably take about 10 minutes as well, like last time. The same amount of fuel. Once again, we'll let this go out and then cool down again, and then we'll place the third block in there and light it up for the third time. And then once that's done, the stove is then ready for actual use. Bearing in mind, not a really large fire. Go gentle the first couple of burns, but at least after this, the stove should be fairly much cured. And this will be the third and final burn using the supplied firelighters. Once again, second latch, door slightly open and vents wide open. So after the initial burn-in process followed in the instruction manual, it's by using the fire lighters to cycle the temperature of the stove up and down a couple of times. We've gone ahead and we've lit a fire outside as well, and done a burn-in for about 2 hours just to really cure the paint properly before bringing it inside. So now I'm going to demonstrate the unit operating inside. It's in a masonry fireplace for the test run, and the initial starting temperature in the room was 20 degrees. At the end of the night it maintained the temperature. It was actually 22 degrees. This is a fairly large house with large ceilings, so I was surprised that the temperature actually even did rise, because the stove is not designed for a larger space. Anyhow, it was interesting to see. Also, I did a trial. I have one of those eco fans, which I use on the wood heater at the back here. And this stove really got this fan going quite well. So if you have an eco fan, this stove will serve very well with that. It will definitely make a difference, and it will push the warm air out from the stove into the space you're heating. So I think that also is definitely a good addition. Anyway, we'll go across now and demonstrate the fire inside. This fire was lit at about 4:30 in the afternoon and went through to, I think it was about 11 o'clock. I put the last pieces of wood in before letting it just burn down and go out. So quite a few hours I had this stove burning, and yeah, it did not use a lot of wood. You'll see at the start of the video, once I'm lighting the stove, you'll see how much wood's actually there. It's not a lot of wood. I had probably about 4 or 5 pieces of wood left over after finishing this burn. Anyway, so we'll go across there now and show you lighting the stove set up inside a masonry fireplace. So there we have it. We've done the burning procedure with firelighters, the burning procedure outside using wood, and I've also given the stove a good test run. So hope you've enjoyed this video and got something positive out of it. So yes, thank you very much for watching the video, and good luck in searching for a stove suitable for you. Bye for now.